All right, folks, we have a great guest. She's got a great new book coming out. I know that many of you are already following her and kind of enjoying her tea, so it's not a surprise. We're going to have Zhena Muzyka on. How are you doing, Zhena?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm here in the Ojai, California sunshine, having
Oh,
some iced tea.
that's fantastic. And the new book, it's called Life by the Cup, Ingredients for a Purpose-Filled Life of Bottomless Happiness and Limitless Success. Wow, tell us a little bit about how did you get about going from making the tea to writing a book about it?
Well, writing a book for me has been something I've wanted to do since I was a 6-year-old. So I created, when I was creating the tea company, I kind of was like the one who labored over the copy on the tin packaging, the brochures. It was like my favorite part of the job other than traveling. And so when we got a CEO and I stopped working in the day-to-day, I decided it was time to write a book about my adventures in tea and the beauty of it and how I started the business and grew it so that it would inspire others to follow their dreams. And when I decided to self-publish the book, but then a scout from Simon & Schuster read it, and they decided to publish it for me, so it was a dream come true.
One thing just keeps falling into place, from Zena's Gypsy Tea to Simon & Schuster showing up. I mean, it's like a blessed life. This is crazy.
Well, I've worked really hard. I mean, everything that happened with my son and, you know, working so hard to get him his operations when he was born, you know, with his health issues and everything. I feel like, you know, the writing aspect and the book is kind of, you know, I guess a reward for a lot of hard work and strife and stress.
Sure.
And running the company was not easy either. I mean, being a small startup, woman-run, fair trade, organic company out to save the world in the grocery industry, man, that was, you know, 12, 13 years of 12-hour days and really nonstop climbing. So
David versus Goliath. So I mean,
very, very much. The grocery industry is tough.
Yes. Now, give us a couple of examples of some of the life lessons that you have sort of interwoven with Life by the Cup.
Yeah, you know, it starts with the carving of the cup. I, you know, had met a young couple who escaped Tibet and climbed over the Himalayas to have religious freedom in India. And I was talking to them, and they were mentioning how hardship, you know, they had no resentment over it. And I couldn't believe how at peace they were. And they said, well, you know, we are at peace because pain is simply God's hand carving, you know, you're born a wooden block, and as hardship comes in, that's God's hand, you know, cutting away and forming you into a cup that can hold more and more of life. And eventually the pain keeps continuing, and you just can hold more and more love and joy and happiness. And I just thought, oh my God, that's such a beautiful way of looking at it. So the book starts with the hardship of the carving of my cup, which was my son's, you know, my son almost died at 6 weeks, and it was terrifying because I couldn't get him an operation because I didn't have health insurance. And
Right.
So that's one of the things. But then it quickly gets more positive because, you know, once Sage had his operations, things were good. And I learned everything from, you know, really intense, beautiful lessons in collaboration to being able to ask for help. You know, the chapter, Pride Can't Feed a Baby, that's when I had to actually ask someone and receive help from them. And for a lot of people, it's really difficult to do that. So, yeah, there's a lot of really positive exercises, learning to, you know, simple meditations that I do, and mindfulness techniques and journaling exercises. And, yeah, I really feel it has a lot to offer.
Well, I think the book's really about giving a lot of insight into, you know, bringing about and manifesting this incredible dream. And, you know, you're going to go through countless setbacks. You're going to go through a lot of heartache and hardships. And your book, I think, helps deal with some of that and your own personal experience by triumphing.
Yeah, I do believe that. I believe that the human spirit is the most resilient and innovative and you know, beautiful spirit. And if we just know, if we have an example of somebody who, overcame huge obstacles to pursue a dream and achieve a dream, I think that oftentimes that's all we need is to say, oh, it's possible because this very unlikely woman with all this, stuff happening in her life, if she could do it, I can so do it. I think it's all about perspective and helping one another see that our dreams are achievable.
So what do you say, what is the wisdom that Zhena has for the person that's just, they can't seem to find that positive spin. They can't seem to find that, that starting point. How do you get yourself to that initial phase where, okay, I got enough joy. It's not about happiness. It's not about happiness is based a lot on what's happening to you. How do I find that inner joy that deeps inside of you to fight, to move, to keep going, and not allow it to paralyze you?
Yeah, I deal with that every day still. That's why I have a meditation practice that I do every morning. I get up before, I have another child now, and Sage is 14, and is super healthy. But Mia is 4, and I get up at about 5 or 5:30 in the morning. I make my cup of tea. I meditate for 11 or 22 minutes. I use a digital timer, and I let my mind just kind of run wild, and the exercises are in the book. I just name what's coming up and let it go, let it go, let it go. And then I tend to read a spiritual text or an inspirational text, and then I journal. So my morning practice takes a little under an hour, but it's really the way that I can home in and get really clear and hear, what my intuition is saying to do that day. And it's really the only way I know how to keep a positive outlook on a daily basis. I use a lot of positive affirmations. And then I have one question I continuously ask when I feel lost. And I'm not sure if your listeners, everybody has their own form of faith. I have a very strong faith in God. And I basically say, dear God, please show me how to serve. How best can I serve this situation? Where would you like me to show up next? It's really about, for me, and what makes me tick, is really about being of service. Because I notice that the more I'm serving others, the more I'm doing for them, the happier I am.
Amen. Boy, that's by far the number one thing. And I look at it a little bit differently because my meditation's a little bit differently, but it's my prayer time when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm in the shower and I'm talking with God. I'm like, look, Lord, you've got all this already mapped out. Just help me not get stuck behind the hurdles. Help me keep getting through. And you go through those ups and downs, and people look at you like you've got it all together. And Zhena, you're way further down this road than I am, and people look at you like you're on a pedestal. I'm like, listen, I'm in the muckety muck. I struggle every other day, it seems like. So
I tell everybody that. I mean, people are surprised. It's not like one day you figure it out and then the next day you wake up that way again. It's a continuous figuring it out. It's not like you have a moment of nirvana and then you're living there for the rest of your life. You're continuously, working to be there again, and that is a practice. That's why they call, prayer, or, we go to church regularly, or we meditate regularly, like whatever that is, we have to do it on a regular basis. And then soon enough, the positive thinking and the positive thoughts and all of the things that are proactive in our lives, they start to become habit. And that's the gift. That's where, you wake up and automatically start to pray. If you forgot to do that for 40 days or 90 days or, a period of time, it might not be so easy. You might not feel so
3 days.
Happy. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
my meditation teacher, talks about, God. I mean, he's very, very focused on allowing God to guide. But also he says, you've got to take out the trash. Like, you have to actually, get rid of your negative thinking and be able to have a practice like exercising. Like, if we don't exercise, we get fat or we get unhealthy. If we don't meditate or we don't clear out our minds of negative thinking, we become negative. And it's critical to do on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Paul says, I die daily. And he says it for a reason.
Yeah.
So let me move a little further, because this success story is just constantly growing, and this is what's so amazing about your story is you've already been contacted and working with Mark Wahlberg's production company about adapting this into a TV series and piecing it all together. How on earth did this happen? I mean, is this a Simon and Schuster thing, and Mike Wahlberg just walks in, and you both hey, I got a book.
Well,
read this one.
Yeah,
it's just
it's
fun to joke, but go ahead, Zhena.
No, but I honestly, it landed in my lap, and so did the Simon and Schuster thing. I was 4 days away from self-publishing when I met that woman in a writers' conference, and I didn't want to go to the writers' conference because it was expensive, but I just knew I had to go, and I had to fight my resistance, and I met her there, and she read the book, and the next day I was like, oh my God, like I laughed, I cried, I want to sell this to my publisher. So I was like, oh my God, okay. Well, and the same thing happened with Mark Wahlberg. I was with a friend who's a producer, and for me, I don't really know, or I hosted a television show last year, and I understood finally what producers did, but there's so many layers of producing, you know. And so a friend of mine is a producer, and she was here visiting at my house in Ojai, and we were drinking wine and visiting, and I was telling her stories out of the book, and she said, oh my God, this is so cinematic and so fun, like, send me the book. So I sent her an early copy of it, and she texted me that night after I sent it to her, and she said, well, I was supposed to go to dinner, but I'm on page 95. I'm not, like, I can't put it down. And so I was like, perfect. Like,
well, obviously the best compliment you can have.
Oh my God, because
Absolutely.
she read it before my mom even read it. So I was like, okay, for someone who has no investment in this book, you know, telling me it's good, this is a good sign. And then a few days later, she said, you know, we'd like to see you down at Leverage Entertainment, and, you know, Michael's really interested in talking to you about adapting it into a series. And I was like, I had no idea that she was, you know, I knew she had been a couple with Michael, but I didn't realize they had done business together. And Michael read it, and he said, I want my sisters to read it. I want my mom to read it. Like, I feel like this is such a great story for women in pursuit of a dream, and we want to do something with it. So it happened that way. I didn't even know what Leverage did. I'd had sushi with Michael a few times, and we told stories, but I didn't even know what they did. I knew they worked with Mark Wahlberg, but that was it.
That's fantastic. What a great story.
I keep stumbling into things.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's, you know, and again, folks, I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I'm stepping on toes here with the faith thing, but again, it's how God works. He's going to send you loose in the world, and it's more about you being the servant to keep going. And she uses this carved cup analogy so perfectly, because if you pour out your cup and you empty yourself, he'll keep filling it up. And it's amazing how big your cup gets, because you start getting all this crazy stuff dumped in your lap. You're like, how did this happen? I wasn't supposed to be on the radio. What am I doing? This is crazy. Anyway, with that said, Zhena, how on earth do you sort of move forward from this? This is like a whirlwind with so many things happening or whatever.
Oh, it's actually, yeah, next week I'm going to New York, and the book comes out on Tuesday the 17th, and I'm going to be on Lou Dobbs on the day that the book comes out, and then I'll be on Bloomberg TV.
Right.
The interesting thing is, so what I'm doing to balance it out, since I'll be gone next week, I've got my kids home this week. So, you know, in between interviews, I'm watching The Never-Ending Story with my 4-year-old.
Oh, what a great
movie. For the first time. Yeah, she's never seen it, and she was so into it, she wanted to watch it again. But, you know, we're drinking tea, we're eating, we're playing in the yard, and then I'm jumping on another interview or an email, then I'm coming back out and playing, and I'm just taking it, in a more balanced way, where younger me would have probably been like, oh my God, I have to do everything, you know, and stressed out. But older me is kind of like, yeah, cool, let's enjoy our kids, because, you know, next week I'll be in New York and I won't have them with me, and I'll be yearning for them. So I'm just focused on what matters to me, my family primarily.
It'll be fun, because you'll eventually be on something that will click for them. I just had an interview with Titus Welliver, and all of the movies that he's done, and all of these different roles that he's done, from Lost to, I mean, just tons of stuff. Mm-hmm. He finally gets a role in Transformers, and now he's a Hollywood star, he says to his kids. It's just fantastic. So, you know, you'll eventually get to this point where, like, yeah, my mom does a tea company, and she's an author in a TV show, but she was on this.
Yeah. Oh no. When Mark Wahlberg, when the news came out,
Yeah.
my son and then they saw that Mark was going to be the next Transformers. It was like I hit the mom of the son jackpot. I'm like, and my son actually read the book for his 8th grade. He graduated from 8th grade yesterday, and he read the book for his final book report, and that was pretty incredible.
That is cool.
Yeah, he said, I had no idea what you were going through. Like, I was such a little kid, I didn't realize, but now it makes sense. And Mom, you're so fantastic. And I'm just, that everything else is a bonus after that.
Well, yeah, that connection is now just an eternal bond on a different level. That, yeah, he's going to be transformed as a man. That's fantastic. That's just incredible. Yeah. Folks, you've got to check this out. She is on Twitter at Mistress of Tea. If you didn't know that, shame on you. You should have already been following Zhena. But at Mistress of Tea, we will link to that. And a link to her books, you can get a copy of that on June the 17th. Life by the Cup, Ingredients for a Purpose-Filled Life of Bottomless Happiness and Limitless Success. And it is truly that, is it? A success story that is still growing and expanding, and we wish her the best of luck and just exciting times for you, Zhena. God bless you.
God bless you, too. Thank you so much, Brandon.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.